We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back with Liberty Nation senior political analyst and longtime host of this here radio show, Tim Donner. Earlier in the show, we were discussing Biden's Waterloo moment with Israel, and specifically how these fringe elements within the country who are chanting things like death to America, death to Israel on the streets while shutting down bridges. Who are they voting for? I'd really like to know. Who are they going to vote for in this upcoming election? And how much will that impact Joe Biden's already precarious share of the vote? So let's talk numbers, Tim. What's your view from 20,000 feet, or should we call it 40,000 to add inflation?
Well, I think that some normal Democratic constituencies are starting to come home to a small degree, so that Trump's once really his lead at one point was almost outside the margin of error has now come down to a very skinny number nationally.
Yeah,
however,
nationally.
He's ahead or virtually tied in all 7 battleground states, Wisconsin being the only one that's pretty much a toss-up. Pennsylvania is very close. But, we might as well look at those numbers. But beyond that, it seems to me, Mark, that we should look at the underlying numbers, which means satisfaction level with the economy, with crime, with the border, with foreign wars, and with abortion, and on all of those issues. The only one where Joe Biden even comes close to Donald Trump is on abortion, and even that gap has been narrowed somewhat. So I look at the underlying crosstabs in this, and I look at the underlying underbelly underneath the numbers on top, and I don't see any improvement for Joe Biden in those. And if he expects to come back and win this election, he's going to have to do something to boost his numbers among young people and minorities. And that's why he's buying off young voters with another round of student loan forgiveness, which of course, will once again get shot down by the Supreme Court, but they don't care. If they get some votes in the short term and push it off to after the election, then they'll get what they want. So
it's all about political timing there, isn't it? So
yes.
Once Joe Biden goes ahead with this, then the court has to it will have to be challenged through a series of steps without getting to the Supreme Court. By the time they break up their session in, I guess it's June, they break up for the term, and they're not back until October, which is right before the election, and many of the mail-in votes will have already gone in by then anyway. So it doesn't matter if Joe Biden's latest gambit with student loan relief, which, let's be fair, it's can I buy your vote for this much money off your existing debt? Which
do I hear $1,500? Do I hear
$20,000 for some of them, and others who have enrolled in his programs might be even more. But it doesn't matter if that turns out to be unconstitutional, and then the people do not get their money because they've already I say their money. What a terrible way to put it. They do not get the money that Joe Biden has promised them.
They do not get the taxpayer-funded bailout.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
It's
we all pay for their bailout.
It's funny, isn't it?
In the most realistic terms for people to understand.
It's funny, isn't it? Because the same people who are requesting or hoping that this bailout will come, this taxpayer-funded bailout, are the same ones who were arguing against the banks' taxpayer-funded bailouts before. But yeah, let's dig a little bit deeper into some numbers then. You say it's about the underlying issues, and I agree completely. I don't think that Joe Biden can really do much about the border right now without doing a complete volte-face and saying, not saying, because obviously he wouldn't, but enacting the same policies that Donald Trump had in place that Joe Biden dismantled pretty much from his first day in office.
He may not do that, but he could.
He could. I don't think he will. And then there's the economy. Now, it actually looked like the rate of inflation was coming down, which obviously doesn't in any way impact the cost of goods. They've gone up, they're staying up. There's no way they're going down from now. So whatever you're paying for eggs now is what you're going to be paying, the minimum you're going to be paying for eggs forever into the future. But it looked like it was coming down. But then the latest reports say, no, that's going back up. So I don't think he's going to do anything there. And then, of course, there's the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And I hear chatter that he's about to tap into that again. Is that right?
Well, he can do that, and he can also put pressure on the Federal Reserve to lower rates and position himself as sort of a quasi-populist, demanding that rates be lowered for the average American. He can do that. He can't do anything overseas. In other words, that's, as we've been discussing, there's things he could do domestically. There's nothing he can do overseas because he's been entrenched in weakness to the point that other countries are basing their strategies on that weakness.
So, Tim, I guess the question that a lot of people are wondering is, with Donald Trump essentially presently stuck in court for the remainder of the campaign, what can he do to leverage the obvious and apparent deficiencies of President Biden's presidency?
Well, first of all, he can do rallies outside the 9 to 5 courtroom day. He can be flown in to do rallies and then flown back to New York for the trial. But I have a bit of a different spin on this. I think that this is, in a way, the best kind of campaign that Trump can run, because let's face it, Mark, who in the country doesn't know what Donald Trump is already? By being in court day after day, he's in the headlines day after day. His persecution is in the headlines day after day. I think it helps him.
That's a great take. It's very interesting. And as always, I suspect you're probably right in this. Tim Donner, thanks ever so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Mark.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.